So what's the deal with people not liking Super Mario Sunshine? I don't get it. I think this game is great. I even go so far as to say it's my favorite 3D Mario under Odyssey. But for years online, I've been hearing people talk about how Mario Sunshine, it was the bad 3D Mario. They messed that one up. It wasn't very good. It's bad. And I'm like, wait, what? When did this happen? What are you people talking about? This game's great. At the very least, it's gotta be better than 64, right? And like, okay. Sometimes the game doesn't have the best mission design in the world, maybe. But Sunshine excels much more than other Marios in the movement. This is probably one of the most fun games I've ever played for just navigating a 3D space. And it's all thanks to this game having one of the most robust movesets for 3D platforming I've ever seen. I mean, just look at it, man. It's so smooth. Everything just chains into everything else perfectly. You can just keep going and going and going, and it's just great. And I want to talk about what makes it great, specifically the moveset. So to begin, you got the usual 3D Mario standards. You got the dive, the side flip, wall jumping, the triple jump. There's no long jump in this game, but you don't really need it. You got plenty of other tools that more than make up for it. And so with those moves, I'm not really going to go into too much detail about them, because they're just the basic 3D Mario stuff that you'd see in pretty much any other 3D Mario. I'm just going to focus on the stuff that's unique to this game, or particularly interesting. And so, of course, that means we have to talk about the spin jump, and oh my god, I love the spin jump in this game. I'm addicted to it. You're going to see in my gameplay, I am constantly spin jumping all over the place when it's completely unnecessary. It's just so much fun, man. I love it. So if you're unfamiliar with the spin jump in this game, it's the highest jump you can do, and it also descends slightly slower than falling normally. And while those two things don't really sound like a lot, they actually make a pretty big difference in the context of the game when combined with other movement tools that you have. And to do it, you just gotta spin the left stick in a 360 motion before hitting the jump button. And even though the spin jump is like by far the most powerful jump in the game, a lot of players I see don't really use it that much. And I think it's because of that 360 motion. I think a lot of players probably struggle to get that motion down correctly so they can do it consistently. But with a bit of practice, it's really not that hard once you get a feel for it. Something I should point out is that you don't immediately have to press jump after you do the 360. You got a little bit of a window of time after inputting the 360 where hitting jump will give you the spin jump, so you do have like a split second in there to properly aim Mario in the direction you want him to jump in. Again, sounds hard, but with a little bit of practice, you'll get the hang of it. There's also a lot of tricks you can do to make executing the spin jump a lot easier. The main one being to buffer the 360 motion while Mario is doing some kind of action where you don't have a lot of control of him. An example would be something like this, where I'm sliding, and when I jump to flip out of the slide, while Mario is doing that flip out, I input the 360 and then hit the jump button as soon as he hits the ground. This makes it so you don't have to actually walk in a circle in order to get the 360 motion, and it helps line it up a lot easier because you've already got that forward momentum in whatever direction you are going. You can of course also buffer spin jumps off of normal jumps, or really any time you're in the air is a really good time to buffer, because your control of Mario is significantly reduced while you're airborne, so he's not going to be wiggling around too much while you input that 360 real quick. You'll see all the time in my gameplay where I do seemingly pointless jumps before spin jumping. That's so I can buffer the input and have an easier time executing it. And here, if you want it even easier, check this out. As you can see, you can turn any normal jump into a spin jump. Obviously, you don't get the height of an actual spin jump, but look at this and watch very carefully how I jump here. You might have noticed that before I hit the ground, I started spinning and then immediately did a spin jump. That was only one 360 input to do that. If you start spinning close enough to the ground, then when you hit the ground and then jump, you'll still get the 360 input. That's how generous the buffered window is on that 360 motion. All these little tricks can make executing the spin jump so much easier, and once you have it down and you can actually do spin jumps consistently and in the direction you want, oh my god, dude, this game completely changes. You now have the mobility of a god. And that's just the first piece of advanced movement we have to cover. The next thing I want to talk about is the dive, because in this game, the dive has a lot of special functionality that is really fun and really interesting. So obviously you can use it to cover slightly larger distances with your jumps, but after the dive you'll go into this little slide animation. And with enough speed, if you press jump, then you'll do this flip out that I mentioned before. This is a very useful jump because while it's low to the ground, it gives you a lot of speed, so you can use it to cover small distances very quickly. And while you're sliding, you can press the dive button again to do little hops that will extend the distance it goes and help you line up that flip out to be right at the exact position you want. And then of course use the flip out to buffer spin jumps. So you can immediately see how these two movement techniques can connect into each other. Diving, sliding, and flip outs when you need to cover long distances, and then converting that into spin jumps when you need to do some platforming. But another thing to note about the dive in this game is that while it gives you a lot of speed in the direction you're pointing the stick horizontally, it doesn't actually affect your vertical momentum at all. So in a situation like this where you're falling from really high, you can use the dive to cover a massive distance and land very precisely. And that's cool when you're going down, but it gets really cool when you think about using the dive while going up, because the burst of upward speed from the jump and the burst of forward speed from the dive combine together to just launch you in whatever direction you're going. And the higher the jump you do, the stronger the effect will be, so doing it with a spin jump will give you the biggest bang for your buck. And then since you're diving, when you land you're going to go into the slide, which means you can then flip out, which means you can then buffer another spin jump and just keep it going. Never stop. And yes, this rule does apply with the rocket nozzle if you want to go really far. So that just about does it for what Mario can do on his own, but of course we gotta talk about FLUDD, your weird Super Soaker backpack jetpack thing. And first I'm going to focus on the main spraying nozzle and how you can use that. Because I think a lot of people might think that, well, it's the spraying nozzle. It's not really for movement and getting around. It's for cleaning up goop and, wiping away stuff, right? Wrong. Although to talk quickly about cleaning stuff, there's actually even an advanced way to just spray water to clean stuff off. You know how when you do the spray that locks you in place and you jump, you do this backflip that has like a shotgun water blast on it? Well, actually, you can do that in the air. And when you do it in the air, Mario doesn't do that backflip animation, so nothing stops you from just immediately spraying again, and again, and again, and again. Like this, you can just pump out a ton of water and cover a massive area super quickly, and this is way more efficient for cleaning off goop and dealing with enemies and all kinds of stuff. It's just a great technique. Use it all the time. Though it does require a little bit of finger gymnastics, because you gotta jump, and then hold the trigger and jump to spray, and of course you want to be doing that as quickly as possible, so trigger, jump, trigger, jump, trigger, jump. But once you hit the ground, you want to not trigger, so you can just do a normal jump. It takes a little bit of practice, but once you get the muscle memory for it, it's easy as pie. You can even do it while spin jumping to just spray all over the place in all directions. Other quick note, if you do the 360 and spray water, then you'll do this spinning spray, which is obviously very good for covering the whole area around you. But also, jumping while doing this spinning spray gives you a spin jump, so if you're really struggling to get spin jumps right, this gives you a very large window, a couple of seconds, where you can just walk Mario in the direction you want and then get a spin jump. And another quick thing is that if you go into the slide on a wet surface, then your slide will be enhanced. It'll now have infinite range, and you will go way, way faster. I think it's the fastest way to move around on the ground. And if you don't have a wet surface in front of you, well, just make one. You got a frickin' Super Soaker on your back. So with that out of the way, let's talk about the hover nozzle. And right off the bat, I want to say that I think a lot of people don't like the hover nozzle because they think that it makes the game too easy. And sure, you can use it to save yourself from your mistakes. So in that way, yeah, it does make the game easier. But I don't think that's a bad thing. Because remember, this is a collectathon. This is not like a linear level-based get to the end of the obstacle course kind of game. The levels are all designed like big open playgrounds, and you're running around in them doing a bunch of stuff. So for that kind of game, I don't really think the platforming being easy is a bad thing. When the levels are just big open areas for you to do a bunch of stuff in, it works to make it easier because you don't want to have to break your back to get to every single area of the level. Plus, since you got multiple objectives within an individual level, if it was really hard to get to a specific area to do a specific thing, then you'd have to keep on doing that really difficult platforming sequence over and over, and that would just get tedious and annoying. By making it easy and forgiving, you now have a lot of versatility in your options when you're traversing the level. You don't always have to take the same path because your toolset is more than enough to connect you from any one point of the level to any other point. That makes the level design a lot more dynamic too, because now you have tons and tons of pathways all over the level. Ones that weren't even necessarily intended by the designers. You can just look at where you are and where you need to get and just see what you think you can do and how you can get to there in the most efficient way possible. Or the most fun way if that suits your fancy, as it does mine. With powerful platforming tools in an open area style level, everything just turns into a jungle gym for you. You can just go wherever you want and do whatever you want, and that just works so well for this kind of game where just moving around is so much fun. But even with all that aside, I still think the hover nozzle is a good thing because it adds a lot of cool stuff to the platforming that you wouldn't be able to do without it. It enables you to jump massive distances and do really interesting types of jumps where you jump backwards off of something and then hover back under it and then around 3D space and go like from under a platform and then hover to get over it and all kinds of cool stuff like this. And also, it's really good for just making small micro adjustments to your jumps. You know, if you need just a little bit of extra height or just turn yourself ever so slightly so you get that proper lineup, it just makes the platforming so much smoother. Even a small mistake in your jump could end up totally killing your flow going through a level, and with a quick hover you can just fix that problem and keep on going. And because of that, I think the hover nozzle actually complements the spin jump really well, because the motion to do the spin jump means you can oftentimes make a mistake and launch yourself in the wrong direction. It makes it a lot less scary of a proposition to use the spin jump, and so it can encourage you to actually try and use it. I'm a big fan of when games encourage you to use the most fun mechanics in them as much as possible, and the hover accomplishes that very well. When you really have it all down and you understand how to use all the tools in the game, it's just great. It's so satisfying. It's so smooth. You just travel across the level like nothing. It's so, like, elegant even. It seems so effortless to just go wherever you want from wherever you want, and while you're doing it, you're doing all these crazy-ass cool jumps all over the place. Jumps that you could only dream of in most 3D platformers. And if you really get good with it, you can even start to get to places you're not supposed to be able to without power-ups. And if you really still think that the hover nozzle makes the game too easy, well, that's what the secret levels are for. Here you do have get to the end of the level style obstacle courses, and they take FLUDD away and say you gotta get through it with just your basic Mario platforming skills. And these are really fun too, though I think a lot of players can struggle with them because they start to rely too much on the hover nozzle, and they start to blame the game's controls or the level design or how Mario's moveset in this game is really not built for actually 3D platforming, and that the hover nozzle is a fix to get around that. I don't buy any of that. Like, even without the hover nozzle, you still have a very robust and powerful movement tool set. You're fine without it. If you're struggling on these secret levels, it's because you're bad. So after all that, I'd hope you've come to see that Super Mario Sunshine is actually a really fun game. I know a lot of people don't like the structure and the mission design, and that's totally fair. I don't like a lot of the missions either. But even when I have to do a bad mission, I still manage to have a good time because just moving around these levels is just that enjoyable. I just see where I have to go and I get there in as fun a way as I possibly can. And then I do some bad objective that probably sucks. But it's fine. And it's not like all the missions are bad. Like, the secret levels are fun, and I really like the red coin missions because they just put a bunch of stuff around the level that you have to go and get, and it's just a good excuse to run and jump around the place, which is always good to me. And similarly, I enjoy doing the 100 coin missions, because if you're going to get 100 coins in a level, that probably means running around up and down all over the whole huge thing. And that's fun. And actually, don't tell anyone, I really like collecting blue coins. Because, you know, they're hidden around usually in hard-to-get-to places, and they're just all over the place. Again, just good incentive to use these platforming tools that I have that are so fun to just get from place to place. And that's what's great about this game. In fact, my favorite level in the game is Delfino Plaza, the hub world. Because it's just like the ultimate jungle gym, man. Like, the level design here is just so perfect for just jumping around and having fun. I'll sometimes just not be doing anything and just find myself jumping around Delfino Plaza all over the walls and sliding all over the place, because moving around in this game is just fun. So take that, people who say Mario Sunshine's not good. Maybe you should learn to spin jump. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed. See you next video.